communications to the weekly national press briefing. I implore members of the 40 states and our guests here for us to offer our silent individual prayers. Amen. Amen. Let me, on behalf of the Honorable Minister, the Deputy Minister, Permanent Secretary, and all directors, especially the Director of Information, welcome you to the weekly national press briefing of the Ministry. May I encourage members of the 40 states to please bring forward your recorders. You can just pass it on, so limit the movement. Also, please put your phones on silent or vibration. With that said, I will now invite my colleague Nancy for the weekly update.
Good afternoon. Weekly updates for today, Thursday, 5th May 2022. The ambassador of the Kingdom of Morocco to Guinea, accredited to Sierra Leone, Issam Taib, has on Wednesday, 4th May, paid a courtesy call on His Excellency President Dr. Julius Maada Bio and commended government on various developments that are taking place in the country. The head of the European delegation to Sierra Leone, Ambassador Manuel Mula, has on Wednesday, 5th May 2022, paid courtesy call on the Deputy Minister of Information and Communications. The courtesy call from the European Union head of delegation to Sierra Leone was to discuss the ministry's programs that are supported by the EU, including the Cyber Security and Crime Act 2021 and the Draft Data Protection Policy Bill and Regulation. At World Press Freedom Day Global Commemoration in Uruguay on Monday, 2nd May 2022, the Minister of Information and Communications, Mohamed Aman Swari, was there to announce the new roadmap for media viability in Sierra Leone. And lastly, the Parliament of Sierra Leone has on Thursday, 28th May, debated and ratified the Zupla Agreement for the development of Sierra Leone. We'll now call on the Director of Information to introduce our guest for today's press briefing.
Thank you very much, Nancy. I am stepping in instead of the Director. I'm not the Director. Today we have the Directorate of Science and Technology here, the STI, and we are also expecting other constituent members of the media SLAJ, MRCG, the Sierra Leone Police, for the rest of the press briefing. But to start with, we are going to start with the STI, and they are here today to announce the winner of the Technology and Innovation essay competition. To give a statement on that and a background of this competition, I shall call on Mr. Kahil Ali, Head Human Capital Development Incubator at the STI. Mr. Kahil, welcome.
Thank you, and good afternoon all. It is my pleasure to speak about the National Tech and Innovation Competition, and it is actually the first time that we've launched it. Sitting in this room today, we have some young people who inspired me and inspired, I think, a whole bunch of judges across the nation with their writing. The young people in front of us today spoke about issues around literacy and numeracy in primary school. They spoke about using technology to solve the COVID problems. They spoke about the power that internet can give to learning to other young people across this nation. The National Tech Innovation Competition, the essay, we had over 200 entries. This first competition is exactly what we wanted to do at the STI in partnership with the Ministry of Education to really talk about showcasing the creativity and skills of our young people in this country. The exciting thing about this is that in the future, we'll not just be doing this in Freetown, we'll also be doing this across different districts. The next district we'll go to, I believe, is the South, and then after that, the North, with the whole idea of showcasing our young people and inspiring future generations. Among us, the young people at the table, we have future doctors, lawyers, engineers, and teachers. We have young men and young women that can take part in shaping this nation and building the human capital development that we so desperately need. I'm now going to hand over to my colleague, Ms. Mariama, lead comms, to introduce the winners so we can celebrate them together. Please.
Thank you very much, Dana. Before I call our winners up today, I would like to thank some of our partners and our sponsors, Easy Solar and the Sierra Leone Commercial Bank, who made this possible. Now, our first winner, the winners that will be announcing will be from the secondary school category. Coming in first place, Victoria Mambu from Annie Walsh Memorial Secondary School. Please come up. I think please bring her. And Victoria, alongside this awesome prize of 5 million Leones for your excellent work, here's a certificate of appreciation.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Now, our second runner-up is Mr. Saliu Bangura from Albert Academy.
Well, that will be done to see. Best school ever. You know, go academy, you know, go school. Which one?
And Mr. Saliu, congratulations once more. Now, coming in third place is Mr. Eric Jura Sisse. Oh, Eric, just 1 second. Eric Jura Sisse coming in third place for the secondary school category. Let us all give our, oh, here's your certificate of achievement. Now let us all give our secondary school participants a round of applause. Now we're moving on to the primary category. Our first prize winner is Alfonso Devanea, our future engineer from Ontario Kindergarten. Yay. Coming in second place from Tariel Kindergarten is Nabila Mariama Kamara. Let's give our primary participants a round of applause. Thank you very much, participants. And again, thank you to our sponsors, Easy Solar and the Sierra Leone Commercial Bank, for making this possible. Thank you, MIC, for hosting us today. And thank you, MBSSE, for being a part of this process with us.
Thank you very much, DSTI. We quite appreciate this. But please continue to stay with us. Probably the press may wish to ask one or two questions regards the innovation, and they may wish to write one or two stories to carry what they've seen here. Probably they may need one or two clarifications later. So please continue to be our guests. Guys, young innovators, we encourage you also to just stay a bit so that you have a flavor of what we do here and what really the press briefing is all about. Colleagues of the Fourth Estate, my colleagues at the MIC, you may recall that Sierra Leone has made an impressive progress on media freedom and has jumped from 29 spaces up in the Global Press Freedom Index that was published by Reporters Without Borders. And Sierra Leone has continued to make impressive leap on its media freedom credentials. On the 20th of, based on the 20th World Press Freedom Index, we've seen that this report was published on the 3rd of April 2022. Sierra Leone was ranked 46 out of 180 countries, jumping 29 places up from 75th position in 2021. So this annual Reporters Without Borders Press Freedom Index assesses the state of journalism in 180 countries and territories based on the following criteria. It's based on press freedom, which is based on political, economic, socio-cultural context, media legal framework, safety of journalists. However, the methodology that was used to measure all of this took into consideration a special definition. For those of us that write dissertations or projects, we have definitions used for specific purposes. And for this press freedom, they define press freedom as the effective possibility for journalists as individuals and as groups to select, produce, and disseminate news and information in the public interest, independently from political, economic, legal, and social interference, and without threats to their physical and mental safety. And this is exactly the case of Sierra Leone, why we were ranked from 75 coming up to 46. And we are here today to look at this and assess it ourselves as pressmen and women. How far as a country can we enhance this press freedom index? Whether next year we'll leap up again another 25 or 40 steps ahead to come second. It's exactly what we mean by when we talk about the sustainability of this result. And we must tap ourselves at the back to say, we've done well reaching at this peak among other countries in the world. So to discuss this and much, much more about the sustainability of the impact of this in our country, actually we invited the Sierra Leone Police to be part of this press briefing. I'm still expecting them to be in attendance. We also invited the organization that is supporting media reforms in country, which is the MRCG. And the primary target of this whole process, which is the Sierra Leone Association of Journalists, and the ministry ourselves being regulators of policy and monitoring the situation. IMC was also invited. But to keep the ball rolling, there is somebody here with us who is acting in two capacities in this sense. But I'll start with the paramount, which is his actual designation as the president of the Sierra Leone Association of Journalists. We have Ahmed Nasrallah, who is there with us. We call him the monk. And he also is going to double to represent the MRCG. So he will be speaking in two folds here, and while supported by our officer in charge at the MRCG. So for now, we will have to give the podium to Monk to explain to us their perception about this great improvement in terms of media index in the country, as well as challenges and the way of sustaining our position as a country. And then that will be backed up with question and answer session. So welcome the president of the Sierra Leone Association of Journalists. You have the podium, sir. You can come over here for those recording the statement. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, colleagues and students and staff members of the DSTI present here, other ministries and agencies of government. Good afternoon. And SLAJ is pleased to be here this afternoon, this press briefing at the Ministry of Information and Communications, our partner in our aspiration to pursue press freedom, freedom of expression, and also media development in the country. And if you recall, on May 3rd, that was on Tuesday, we celebrated or we commemorated World Press Freedom Day. By way of history, Sierra Leone participated in 1993 in Namibia, Windhoek, where the declaration was made. Journalists met from all over Africa and met here to propose to the United Nations that May 3rd should be recognized as a day for World Press Freedom. And one of our oldest, one of our very senior colleagues, Paul Kamara, who was the editor, former editor of for the People newspaper, was present at that ceremony in Windhoek, in Namibia, to represent Sierra Leone. So it was part of those deliberations that now culminated to the United Nations adopting a resolution for the observation of World Press Freedom Day every 3rd May. And if you also recall, you will, if you're following our activities, you will know that on May 3rd we also issued a press statement regarding the status of press freedom in Sierra Leone. Because on a day like that, what we do normally, or what we do usually, not just personally, but for all other nations that observe that day, is to look at the status of press freedom in the countries, in individual countries, and also assess the gains and look at the challenges, and also call on the authorities to renew their commitment to ensure the protection and promotion of freedom of press and freedom of expression, and beyond that, the civic space and the rights of citizens to express themselves freely. And we also remember those journalists who lost their lives in line of action, or who have got injured or suffer other consequences as a result of their work. So that is a moment that we remember them and pay tribute to them. And so for us as SLAJ, we basically said that there is much to celebrate about in terms of press freedom, and there is also some things to worry about in relation to breastfeeding. And so we catalog the advances or the progress that we've made in the last 3 years since we came into power at SLAJ under my leadership, and also 2 years since we achieved the historic repeal of the criminal level. Remember that was for the past 50 years, SLAJ, which was formed in 1971 in 5, had taken upon itself to pursue the review of the criminal labor law. Since that year, 50 years, we've been fighting government, parliament, and the other agencies to repeal the criminal labor law so that our work will not be criminalized, and so that we also respect international conventions guaranteeing the fundamental rights of journalists, media practitioners, as well as citizens. And so we achieved that feat in 2020, 50 long years. And so that is a big achievement for us, and that is something we continue to celebrate, and it's something we continue to protect and promote as long as SLAJ survives as an association. And so since that period, we've not experienced any journalists in jail. We've not experienced the usual problem of SLAJ going to the CID to try to secure the release of their colleagues, as was the case when there was a criminal labor law. So those incidents of arrest and detention of journalists by the police reduced drastically. And then during this period also, we have not had any radio station closed down or shut down because of what they publish or what they broadcast or in the media house, except we have a temporal ban several days ago by the IMC of Justice FM, which is basically this kind of free town, for what the commission described as radio-like language and also threatening remarks. So the program was suspended for 10 hours and then lifted again. The management and the staff were summoned to the IMC and they had a discussion, and they went back and resumed the program. And I heard that the station has apologized to the public for those irresponsible broadcasting. And so for us, that is something we should celebrate about. Because if you look at what is happening in other countries, killing of journalists, assassination attempts, and other things, you find that those things are not happening here. So we want to protect that, maintain that kind of stability in media freedom. We also talked about our relationship with the government. Since they came to power, they have allocated annual subvention to SLAJ, to help the association to administer its affairs as a umbrella body. And so that subvention was 250 initially, 250 million. And then last year, the president announced an increment to that amount from 250 to 500 million. So that is the contribution of that subsidy from the government to the media. And that money goes directly to SLAJ. And then SLAJ, in the budget presented to government, which will be audited at the end of the disbursement, will distribute among its affiliate bodies and its regional bodies. SLAJ is a national body. We have regional offices in the north, and the south, and the east. And the others will go towards paying the rents of the association, secretariats here, Freetown, McKinney, and Kenema, and also payment of salary and staff for administrative staff and running costs. So that's where the money will go. So that is also another very important, although we are still following working with the ministry to ensure that they will receive the disbursement for 2020, 2021 and 2022 as I speak. Yeah. Okay, and then the director of communication also just talked about the WordPress Freedom Index. When we had the repeal in 2020, the following year, 2021, we saw that Sierra Leone dipped 10 places higher from 85 to 75 in the WordPress Freedom Index, this published annually. And this year, we are hoped further higher, 29 places, 75 to 46 out of 180 countries. So that is a big achievement for us, and it's something that we should celebrate and be proud of us, for ourselves as a to government for making that happen. And we hope that we continue to work with the government to ensure that these rights are protected and promoted so that as we get the yearly index, we continue to improve and improve and improve. And so we also mentioned that for the past 22 years, the Independent Media Commission was set up in 2000 on the advice of SLAJ because we wanted to move towards self-regulation, and we thought that the IMC would be an institution that would help us or guide us towards that aspiration. And we thought that the IMC will not be forever, maybe 10 years, 15 years, and they will have delivered us to where we want to go, and then they will wrap up. But as the case now, the IMC is still around 22 years, still relevant to regulating the media and also working with the media to ensure that we address the problems, myriad of problems that are affecting the industry. So we're working together. So now we have digital media as a big elephant in the room. And so the IMC is still relevant. And so for the first time, because according to the Act, every year when the President, His Excellency, will be appointing members to the board of the IMC, he should do so in consultation with SLAJ. So for the past 20 years, with the heads of state that have come and gone, they've been consulting with SLAJ, and SLAJ will give up names, nominees, and then they discard those names and go ahead and appoint people who they think will protect them when they are in power, and somebody who they can talk to always to ensure that their interest is protected. So for the first time this year, we submitted 7 nominees, including the person who will be the chairman of the commission of 12 members. All the nominees were approved by the government by His Excellency the President. That's also a big achievement. So for the first time in our history, we consider this IMC as our IMC. Because apart from the chairman, we have 7 others, 6 members that we appointed to represent us. Somebody there to represent SLAJ, and somebody there to be as a media expert print, media expert electronics, media expert ICT, and other areas as well. So that is a big achievement for us as members of SLAJ. And so we also, just last month, 20th of April, we held the first ever National Media Viability and Investment Conference. It was done through the support of the BBC Media Action. They have a project called PIME, PRIME, Degree 6 to promote public interest journalism for development. And so they supported that initiative. That was an initiative that the government promised that because when we are campaigning for the repeal of the criminal libel law, one of the strongest arguments that we put forward was that the law was so bad that it was preventing private sector investment into the media. And so now that the law has been repealed, the government thought it's wise that it's now time for us to position the media in a way to attract this that investment that we're talking about, private sector investment. And so the media viability and investment conference came at the right time, and that is just the beginning of a long journey that we'll have to take. Also together as partners, not SLAJ alone, but together with government, together with other international partners. Because what we did during that 2 days was to ensure that we look at the industry, we look at the challenges, we look at the opportunities, and we look at the priority needs, and also encourage our members to come up with solutions to those marketing solutions to those challenges. And so that day, we presented those information to the group, and we also listened to international perspectives of what is happening in other countries, Kenya, Canada, and Morocco, Tunisia, and see what works here, Kenya, and Ghana as well, so that we can see what we can adapt to fit our own context. Because basically, we looked at an investment by the public sector, investment by the private sector. Because in other countries, the government is subsidizing the media heavily. Because media is part of the democracy, it's the fourth arm of government, it's the fourth power. And we are there to maintain that balance and to ensure that we checkmate the other 3 arms of government, and to ensure that they work according to what they are charged to do as arms of government. And so that is our role. So it is a responsibility of every government to support the media to be able to develop independently and efficiently. So those who feel that the government gives money to the media, it means that the media has mortgaged its independence. credibility. That is not the case. SLAJ is the umbrella body. Money comes to us, doesn't go to the media houses individually, and SLAJ doesn't control the editorial policies of the individual media houses. They have editorial independence. Don't tell them what to do. So that's why when you open the news or you read the SLAJ everything, you see a lot of independent reporting about the activities of government. We don't have any control on that. What comes out in the media. So that is also another big success for us as media, because that investment companies now, we have some recommendations, we're going back to the drawing board, put them together, and then we'll now have a guide, and a working book now that will present to potential investors and who will now face to face and discuss what are the possible opportunities and potentials that will be available when they want to put in their money in the media. And we also ask that government also comes in more bigger than they are doing now, so that then we have an independent media doing its work to ensure that our democracy works. And so, in terms of safety and security of journalists, you realize that for the past 3-4 decades, we have trouble with the police, especially the police and security sector. Whenever we need to clash, and the journalist always suffers by way of assault or detention and their equipment, and will also be destroyed. And so, the usual happening is that SLAJ will put out a press release condemning the act, and then make some noise, and then the police will say they are investigating, and those investigations will never come to an end, will never be concluded. And so, when we came in as an executive, what we decided to do was to ensure that we go beyond the press releases. We put out the press release, condemn the action, but then we want to engage in dialogue with the security sector to see how we can understand ourselves, understand our roles. We also understand their role as security people. They also understand our role as media people, what we do, and what are the challenges we go through trying to do our work. Once we understand that, and then going forward, we respect our roles, we support one another to ensure that we perform those roles efficiently and effectively. So that's what we did. So we approached the police, we approached the ONS, which is the umbrella body for the security sector, and then we had a meeting, initial meetings, and then that's culminated into the signing of an MOU. And it's actually for the first time in the history of the media, relationship with the media and the security sector. We have all the heads of those institutions on the table with SLAJ. The head of the police, the head of the RSLF, the head of ONS, the head of the Leone Correctional Center, the head of Fire Force, and the head of the organization, so the ONS. They're all there at the ONS office where we signed the MOU, basically committing ourselves to ensure that we support one another in the pursuance of our responsibilities as players in our democracy. The police and the security sector provide security for the state, and we provide information to people. So we both of us have very crucial roles to play in our democracy. And so that's the reason why we did that. So that's a big step in trying to address our relationship to minimize the incidents of assault and detention of journalists that were unnecessary attacks on journalists by the security sector whenever there are programs like elections or presidential functions. And so, what I said at that day when we signed that moment was the day when we were signing the MOU, I said things will not change overnight. That is a big step. We will still continue to see police assault, police arresting journalists and detaining them, but definitely the incident will be minimized, and with the spirit of the MOU and the commitment we make, we continue to see what we can do. And so we agreed with the police by the time we get near to the elections to have a training program for both the police and the commanders of the police, the local unit commanders and operational commanders, as well as for the media station managers and editors, so that we'll meet and discuss the challenges that we face whenever we meet during those programs, those very important national programs. And then together we'll develop manuals or guidebooks and the do's and don'ts, what we should do, what we should not do. And that will guide us whenever there is an operation, and we'll make genuine commitment to ensure that we respect and support our roles as players in a democracy. And so those are the key things that we want to highlight as positives in terms of assessing the status of press freedom in Sierra Leone. But now we have realized that we're not only fighting for journalists, we're also fighting for the public. And so we realize that press freedom goes beyond just freedom for the media and freedom for journalists. It also goes towards beyond to freedom of the people to be able to express themselves freely in a democracy. And so we mentioned some threats, we think that challenges that we've seen most of the things that we fought for under the repeal, and the repeal has happened, and we thought that these things will go away. They are beginning to happen all over again. And so that's because of concern for we, and so on that day we also red flag those key issues for the attention of the authorities concerned, so that we take appropriate action to ensure that we minimize or we nip them in the bud. And so some of them we highlighted. If you listen, if you follow the news, you will see that we have put out some press releases in the past 1-2 months, and the latest one being on the issue of the journalist in Gambia, who claims to be investigating a corruption issue involving some military officers and also some big businessmen in Gambia district. And so he woke up one morning with his family to the smell, a very strong smell of fuel, petrol. And they went outside and saw that they painted petrol on their door, and there's a plastic bag at the top of on the ceiling with petrol dripping down. And so now he says he fears for his life and the life of his family. And so we're monitoring the situation, and we have put out a press release, and international organizations have called human rights defenders to ask us about the details of the issue, and police are investigating in Gambia. But the last time we spoke, and so Goto, he said he's worried about his safety. So that is one issue that we think we should flag up. And we also remember the assault of the AYB journalist and transport right, journalist transport right by the police. Transport had gone to the central police station to cross-check some information about police involved in an accident involving also a child. And so the police were angry, according to the transport, and he was beaten up and detained, and his equipment destroyed. And we followed up on that one, and we engaged the police. The police are in the process of refunding the damaged properties and also making a commitment to Ransford. And then we talked about the issue of Lamanaba of AYB, who almost missed his trip to the AFCON 2021 because his name was announced during the flight at the Twitter International Airport, and he felt humiliated, and he was stood down for some time, and it was alleged that somebody high up there called the flight people to drop him from the list of people who are going. And so SLAJ also intervened on that one, and eventually Damana proceeded to the AFCON after suffering the embarrassment and the humiliation. We also talked about Advocacy who works for the Ministry of Lands, who is the PRO there, is a member of SLAJ, and he complained that on several occasions social media has been awash with news of his death, untimely death, and causing him to worry, and he thought that people are trying to intimidate him by what that is doing in the ministry. We also flagged that one, that is a concern. In the digital space, intimidation of journalists and harassment is part of all the troubles that we're getting to experience again. We also mentioned the attack on Asma James in the close of the year 2021 by the rapper LAJ, and we also talked about the journalist who was transported from Bo to Freetown, and detained in Freetown, spent 1 night here, and we have to intervene to also let him bail out again. And so what we're saying is that in the spirit of the repeal of the criminal law, we do not think the police have the authority anymore to be arresting journalists for doing their work. What we expect them to do going forward is to ensure that whatever cases or complaints they receive from the public in relation to the work of journalists, there are appropriate institutions to refer those cases, like the Independent Media Commission. And SLAJ also has a disciplinary committee. And but they can also advise the people who are aggrieved to also go to courts, because they are civil libel law. And It's their right to do so. And so those are the things that we highlighted as threats to the freedom that were achieved. And so what we decided to do in celebration of this day, observing the day actually, apart from the statement that we have released, is to organize a freedom walk on Saturday. Saturday we'll have a freedom walk, 7th May 2022, in collaboration with the European Union. We'll walk from SLAJ office at Campbell Street to the Telecommerce Garden by the Cotton Tree, where we'll converge and make some brief statements. Statement from the judiciary, statement from the police, statement from parliament, statement from media stakeholders and the government as well, renewing their commitment to the protection, promotion, and expansion of the civil space, not only freedom of speech or freedom of the media. So that is the symbolic work that we're going to do in reflection of the human rights law. And we are encouraging all of you to attend. You are invited. It's an open event. It's a peaceful event, and we want to ensure that we demand for freedom, because we don't believe the more freedom we have, the more we demand for more. We know that the authorities, when they give freedom, they have other ways of trying to take them back from you. And so that is our concern. We want to ensure that we protect that space that we achieve with the bill. And it's a collective responsibility to do so, not only the media, but also civil society organizations and other people who are supporting democracy in Sierra Leone should be concerned about that space, so that we continue to expand it, continue to protect it, and we continue to promote it. And so that's that for the walk. And we said that the freedom walk is not an end in itself, actually, but the beginning of a long march to free press and free expression in Sierra Leone, because we believe that freedom, to achieve freedom of expression and free media, that is not the one of battle, not the one of event. It's something that's continuing to demand every day, because experience every day. It's societal issues that we deal with every day. So we will not, it's not a battle that we say we have won today, because tomorrow when you wake up, you will hear about the journalists being assaulted or intimidated or others. It happens everywhere. So we continue to fight. It's a fight that we'll continue to fight. We're always prepared, but we cannot do that alone. We need the support of other partners, and we need collaboration and the partnerships to be able to ensure that we protect that space. And so, every time also on this day, we also want to remind ourselves that to whom much is given, much is also expected. And so, the freedom that we have is not a license for us to be reckless, not a license for us to assassinate other people's characters, it's not a license for us to blackmail, it's not a license for us to misinform the public, it's not a license for us to spread hate and incitement, it's not a license for us to use our platforms or our influences to peddle fake news and misinformation. It's a right for us to be professionals, to be responsible, and to ensure that we bring the correct information to the people, because that is our role as journalists. We inform, we educate, and we also entertain. But go beyond that, also advocate for all of these fundamental rights to be protected and promoted, not just for us, but also for every citizen in this country. So thank you very much. I will wait for your questions.
Thank you very much, the President of the Sierra Leone Association of Journalists, and he was also representing the MRCG here, who are also supporting the press. I think there's a bit on that.
Apologies, I'm here with the project manager or the project coordinator for the media reform community group. They are the platform that we use to monitor the cases, and they record the cases, and they publish them on a monthly basis and then on a yearly basis. That's the work. So if you want the statistics, you just go to their website, you will see all the cases of freedom of expression, freedom of the press, and the rights of citizens to express themselves. They're all captured there, every one of them, and they're following up on them. That is the secretariat that we're using, MRCG. The MRCG comprises of SLAJ and its African bodies. We are the board members sit on the board. So basically, it's the secretariat that we're using to help us catalog all of these instances of press freedom, free expression, and right to citizen to express themselves. So, in the year, Regulation 2026 is here to respond to that.
Well, thanks very much, Mr. President and representative of MRCG. We want to accommodate few questions because this is purely a journalistic issue and it borders around members of the press. Most of you didn't have the opportunity to speak to the president of SLAJ and other members or stakeholders around the press. Unfortunately, we cannot get a response from the police who were supposed to be here. But apologies from the IMC, they had some other commitment. And these are all stakeholders around the press. But I will accommodate a few questions if members of the press you have for the president of SLAJ. Thank you. I'll start here.
I'm Mohammed Kamal of the Watch and the Voice of Diaspora. As you rightly say, Director, so this is a question time. I wanted to congratulate the President of the Australian Association of Journalists for the good work he's doing. Actually, he's representing not only Mohammed Kamara, but all of us. I read his statement on the newspapers, and I was very much happy. I wrote to meet him personally. I said, you are the type of man I was looking for. But historically, we need somebody radical because I was Boston radical veterans today. So I need somebody radical, at least for the interest of the coming generations here. I've been to so many troubles in my world as a generation to trouble haunts me anymore. I'm ready for it at any time. But gentlemen, I want to assure you that this ministry that I always advocate for more and more years and not 2 years for the president of the Australian Association of Journalists. You all know that we will be going to the election on the 4th of June. I'm not campaigning for Mr. Monk, but I want you to take into consideration all what he's doing today. It's not for me, it's not for you, and I bet you the next time I'll talk, the next step that Monk going to take is for your own freedom. Monk wants to call all the proprietors of all the newspapers to ensure that you get paid, your licenses are paid, and your well-being is improved. That is what I'm saying. I congratulate you for your presence, sir, and I wish you long life and prosperity, and I wish we all be along with you come that day. Unfortunately, the kids are out. It's not I always say this. I will talk of Blue School in Bo. We'll talk of St. Francis McKinney. And for example, we'll talk of Dallas again. I said, come on. I'm happy today to be here to see. You remember John Acker fight to the national anthem of the Republic of Australia? He's an academician. Academicians produce quite a lot of products in this country. Thank you, sir. Wherever I see you, whenever you see me, whenever I see people like Babadi, you know we're moving. I will continue to move on to the head of time. Thank you for giving me such an opportunity, sir. I'm sorry today is not our question day, but it's a great day for solidarity.
Thank you very much. How I wish, but I think I have no regret for coming from the secondary school in Kono as well. Okay. Anyway, let me take another yes.
And nomenclature.
Joseph Said Bompatsui is my nomenclature. The lion. I want to ask a question about if the representative or the innovative they are out or if they are still there. I think I have a question from them. Okay. If you are here, I think I want to recall you about the art and crafts. Thinking about the area of innovative and what about the tech group? That's please.
You respond later.
Exactly. It's about the tech group. Creating the impact towards innovative. Is there any tech group for upgradement? So that it's not about story of telling, it's about upgrading the status. You have the partnership. Why not endow towards short-term innovative again that we can take the tech group of Kumu Course, Ferry Junction, Bo, Kenema, and on to Makeni. It's about inclusiveness. And for my pleasure, this question goes to you, sir. Freedom of expression, freedom of association, and also freedom of assembly. Very difficult. nothing good to write home about. And the area of journalism, you know that when there is no advert, and also we are using analog, not digital, tax imposed on newspaper, IMC muzzle the press. And we also look about investor fear. They have fear in the area of investment. Is there any level field that the press can operate freely, especially in the area of adverts? You know, now advert has been politicized. And so one newspaper is about adverts. I teach you who as the president for SLAJ. And also, I want to draw your attention, sir, is SLAJ a profitable organization or an independent organization? And lastly, it's about journalists fighting for the entire populace in the Western world. And for Sierra Leone, it's about the journalists only. When you look at the issue of black card, and also you look about the issue of the concerned teachers, what is the response of SLAJ toward this area of inclusion and cooperative responsibility?
Thank you.
very much.
Let me take the young man there, I guess. Dependence observer?
Yeah, good afternoon. Hassan Amami Kamara, Independent Observer. Sir, Mr. President, you made mention of challenges and the gains made so far with regard SLAJ. Now, honestly, with regard any developments, monitoring is key. So I just want to know, now there are some journalists who are practicing journalism but with a low salary. How best have you done in order for you to monitor these media houses? How far have they gone in order for them to work with what you've worked towards in terms of salary engagement? There are journalists who receive low salaries. And again, we have journalists who have graduated from the universities or who have practiced journalism, who are not members of SLAJ. How best are you working in order for you to make provision for some of these journalists, for them to be engaged? Thank you.
Thank you very much. With that, I take just one, the man here in red. And after that, the president will respond. And maybe I may have a response from yes. Yeah, okay. Yes, Mister.
Yeah, that's in the slide. I write for it as a newspaper. Two questions, sir. First one, we have parallel women organization in journalism in this country. First, we used to know only about RIMSA. And just after that, RIMSA elections in the East, SLAJ came up. What have you done to address that? Why not? Because unity is strength. Why are they still operating parallelly?
Thank you. With that,
Secondly, the second question, sir, please. This one is the elections is next month. I want to know if there's going to be room for those who have not yet registered with SLAJ, who do not still have membership with SLAJ. If there's going to be room for them in this last minute. Thank you.
all right. On that note, questions closed for today. Response from the STI. You can press the mic.
Thank you, sir. You had asked questions about implementing vocational schools for tech. Sorry, I think the gentleman is on the phone.
Go ahead.
Okay, so at DSCI, we believe in radical inclusion, and our primary mandate is to support the government of Sierra Leone by using technology, science, and innovation to ensure that the government meets our national development goals effectively and efficiently.
So our role really is not to
build vocational schools. However, like I said, at DSTI, we do believe in radical inclusion. So we do have the digital learning hubs, which are hubs with free access to internet and computers that anybody can go in and use. It's located at IPAM's new building. It's located at IPAM's new building, where you can go use our computers there for free, access to fast internet, and you can learn soft digital skills. And even now, I know some of our kids or our students may be prepping for the NPSC. They can also go on the Digital Learning Hub. They have access to past exam papers, which they can use to study, and other learning materials that they can use to study. I hope that was helpful to you, sir.
All right, thank you very much. And in the area of innovation, these are two different things. Curriculum is designed for from pre-primary to secondary, etc. And what they are doing is looking at the ICT component to enhance development in that sector. And so when you talk about tech book, we already have the tech book commission there. We also have.
It's about cooperation, sir. It's about cooperation.
We have
to coordinate
the technical and higher education, not for ESTI, this particular question, to make it short, it's not for them. But the innovative aspects of using the technology now available, which is in the area of science and technology, that's their responsibility. So for tech folk, I mean, the innovation, arts and crafts you learned about. I mean, we all went to school way back in the 70s, and our art and craft was what? So.
Not only so.
Because you were not designing here at that time. So what we are talking here about is let's ask the question to the relevant authorities. I very much appreciate the question, but that can be directed to the technical, higher and technical education. Yeah. Thank you very much for your response. Prezo?
Thank you very much, colleagues, for your questions. I'll start from the back, start from the last one. I go backward, I go backwards. The last one was that there is any room for those of you who have not been to Master SLAJ for the coming AGM. No, I don't think so. The membership drive for 2021 and 2022 has closed. We've announced we've done the application process, interviews across the country. We've also done the induction ceremonies across the country, and then the approval letters to the individuals who have accepted about 200 of them, and at that number we had about 47 that are winning. So that one is closed. The next meeting will be around August, September, when we'll announce the beginning of the new process for the intake of new members into SLAJ. Yeah. So for this AGM that is coming in June 1 to June 5, that is basically for those SLAJ members who have paid their dues and who have also paid their delegates fees. And remember that this is an elective year, it's an elective Congress as well, so there will be elections for the various national executive and the regional executives. Yeah? And then women organizations, so there are two women organizations in SLAJ. Yes, we have women in the media. Women in the media was established by SLAJ around 2007. It is an affiliate body of SLAJ specialized in women affairs. And so that is the body that SLAJ recognized. And what we know, like you said, from the background of the elections that they had, there is an agreed or a group that is agreed about the outcome of the elections and about the role SLAJ played in terms of supporting the SLAJ to listen to their petition or to do an investigation to their petition. So they decided to form another organization parallel to WIMSA. My personal view is that I have said it over and over again, I don't believe in going away from the problem. The problems they have, those are not problems created by SLAJ, those are problems that have come back from their inception. They've been having these problems every year. And so for one group to decide that we cannot, because we cannot solve this problem, let's go and form our own association. Definitely the problems will follow you there. You confront. The role is to confront the problem together and try to solve it. But if you say you're going to form another association, then definitely we'll continue to see the problems emerging again with that association. But at a large level, because we are an association and we we don't have the authority to take certain decisions without the general membership. We put it to them, and they instructed me as leader to ensure that I recognize we serve as the body that is recognized as SLAJ, because website is our child, so we have to ensure that we protect it and support it to grow. But in terms of mediating to ensure that we resolve the impasse between the two groups, we formed immediately. They formed their group. We formed a establishing committee comprising of SLAJ, a mediation committee comprised of SLAJ members and also members of the public to mediate between the two groups and see how they can bring them back together. And they presented their reports, and the reports we presented at an AGM, and we encouraged the two groups to come back again, but that is possible. And it is their right to form an association, so they're going back to the AGM again this year, and that one will also be on the floor. And whatever the House decide, as members of SLAJ, what they decide is what action we're going to take. And then somebody talked about graduates and those who are practicing but not members of SLAJ, and how do we get them to become members of SLAJ? Just apply. When we open the process, but that's why when we open the process of membership drive, we put out the press release, give you the directions, go to the website, apply online, fill out the form, go to the bank, pay your 100,000 processing fee, get your slip, then wait for the interview. They will call you. So it's a process. Everybody, SLAJ is a voluntary organization. We don't force people, journalists to become members. If you see the need that you want to become part of the association because you're a practicing journalist, then apply, go through the process, apply. There's a committee. The Constitution provides for a committee called Membership and Credentials Committee, which is headed by the VP. And the Secretary General is the secretary to that committee. They are in charge of taking new members to SLAJ. They go through the interview process, application process, do the induction ceremonies, and then approve you, and give the recommended list to SLAJ executive for approval. So we have structures that deals with membership. And so everybody is entitled, as long as you are a practicing journalist and you have the requirement, you can apply and to become a member. They will interview, and then you present your credentials, and then they will approve you as a member. We want more members to come, we want more women journalists to come to the profession. So we encourage. Profit is the monitoring is key. Monitoring is key in terms of salaries paid to members. Yes, we know that. Issue of conditions of service for journalists, in terms of salaries and other allowances has been a very thorny issue for SLAJ and for media owners as well. And the unique thing about our industry is that the majority of media owners are SLAJ members themselves. And so we know the problem, we know the challenges, and so these are things that we've discussed over and over again for the past 10, 20 years, 25 years. But we have not seems to be coming out of it. And so SLAJ doesn't have the power to tell a media owner that you should pay your reporter so and so amount. We don't have that authority. These are private businesses. We all have we are only responsible for individual membership themselves, but don't interfere in the operations of your media house, your business. We have to set that up as a business. Register in the prices, we will not tell you what to do. We will only encourage you. So we don't have over the years, but we've got no success, and so luckily for us, with the repeal of the criminal libel law, we have the repeal also of the IMC Act 2000, and now we have the IMC Act 2020, which now, by law, requires every media house or media owner or media employee or employer to ensure that they pay their employees minimum condition of service, the minimum wage, and also pay their nurses. So that is something we have been asking the IMC to ensure that they monitor so that the media house will just come and give them document that this is what they have paid over the 1 year. Because every year you come to renew your license and you have to present those documents that you are paying, you have this number of staff, and you are paying them this and this amount, and you are also paying them as contribution. There has to be evidence. So we asked the IMC to ensure that when the media houses come to renew the license, they should look thoroughly at the document that they present, go beyond just seeing the document and cross-checking them so that our journalists don't get cheated. And for those who have owed journalists for NACIT contributions, we have approached NACIT has been taking them to the industrial court, and we have intervened and asking the NACIT to ensure that they give them some amount of payment, some kind of payment plan, because some have owed for 10, 20 years, and that's a lot of money you cannot pay overnight, and so we encourage them to go into payment plan with NACIT, and they will pay over a period of time. small amounts over a period of time until we offset those debts. So that's the issue. So this is the beginning of everything that now there's a statutory obligation on media owners to ensure that they pay the minimum wage to every reporter or every employee that they have. Nobody should be paid below the minimum wage. And they are also required to pay their asset. So that is one big step. And we just need to deal on that aspect of it. Yeah. And then somebody, I hope that answers the question, my colleague. And somebody is talking about profit. It's not a profit making organization or an independent organization. SLAJ is a not-for-profit organization. We will be profit, otherwise we will not be asking for help always. What we do, we write projects and projects for training and to support advocacies in various forms and people's rights to expression, journalist freedom, media freedom, and then we send them to international organizations for funding. And when the funding comes, it goes back to the training, and some others it goes back to the media houses to do certain work. The money just come through SLAJ, and then we expand to the various media houses that are carrying out the work. If you look at Ebola, that was actually the case. Billions and billions of millions came into SLAJ accounts. Well, they were meant for radio stations, TV stations, who carried the programs to support the national awareness and preventive measures for Ebola. And so the same thing began with the COVID-19. All the monies that came in, they went to the stations, to the 200 stations, 300 stations already had a platform, and other platforms. So this money goes to them. So nothing stayed. The only thing that stayed with SLAJ is the administrative costs. We have staff that we pay, we also pay the nurses, and we have running costs to pay annual rent. Now is 45 million per year. So these are all things that we do. We will make profit. And so what we have done we know these things are not going to not just sit down and let them continue like that, so that we don't have any source of income except to wait for our subvention for the government and wait for agencies like NDI and NED to support some causes. Some of our causes, that is under my leadership, we try to establish a journalism welfare fund. That fund, what we're going to do with the money, the additional money that we get, is to invest them in bearer bonds, also invest in buying shares in clean companies, so that the money will be sustainable, the money will not just lie idle in the bank, but it will make interest. And so the money will be there. There's a policy that we put in place to ensure that whoever want to access that money as media house or as journalists, will have to meet certain conditions before this money is going to be supported. Basically, the money is to support independent journalism. Independent journalism is journalism for the public good. That is what we want to do. Because if you look at the media, it is polarized, just like the nation is polarized along the political parties. So that is what we want to change. We want to ensure that the space that is there for independent journalism, we protect it and promote it. So that fund will go towards supporting those kind of initiatives. And that will be done by SLAJ. We don't want to wait for government to give us money or for agencies to give us money. So we'll have our own. So it's the beginning of a long journey, but we'll get there. So the account has been opened, it has been launched. Some foundational companies have put money into it, others are still putting money into it. And at the AGM, I've announced the initial money that are coming, and those who have donated it. So we ensure transparency and accountability from the onset until we hand over to anybody who is going to come as the next large president to be able to administer it. But once we we're working with the Bournemouth University in UK, we're also working with the mass communication department here and the media reform coordinating group to ensure that we get the policy together before we start administering the funds. So that is our focus. Okay. And then somebody talked about concerned teachers and Blacker. If you read my statement on what President did, so that I captured all of this, because we believe that yes, SLAJ is not just about doing advocacy for the rights of journalists and free media, but we also know that freedom of the press is freedom of expression of every citizen. So those are things that we highlighted as concerns for us going forward. That if the police can overreact in such a way that concerned teachers who are expressing their grievances about something that they believe very strongly about, go to the radio, the media house and have an interview, then coming out, the police are there to arrest them. And that is the most concern for us. And we also mentioned the situation of the mentally deranged person. was what we are in court and was sent to prison. Must be recently granted bail. So we capture those in our concerns raised. Yes. We know we have made gains, but these are concerns that we have invited authorities to take to have their attention and to ensure that they nip it in the board so that we will continue. And that the SS also where we're doing the march on Saturday. You are all welcome, you are all invited. We're going to march to celebrate the freedom and to also demand more freedom. We're also getting authorities to ensure that they commit themselves to protecting that space, to promoting that space, not just for us, but for also for the citizens. You talked about IMC mostly in the media. I've not heard about that in recent times. IMC, there's a good relationship now between the IMC and the media. And like I told you, this is our IMC. All 7 of the 12 members that are there, including the chairperson, nominated by SLAJ, they were all approved. So this is our IMC. So everything they do, we are in consultation, we are in collaboration, and because we've told them that they are not here to police the media, they are here to regulate the media and at the same time work with the media to ensure that together we address the myriad of challenges that are affecting the media. So we are all in this investment program as well together. We work together as stakeholders. Yeah? So, rest assured, the IMC is not ordinary media. For now, the last 2-3 years that we're here, the IMC has been very magnanimous because of us. There are over 100 to 200 media houses that are yet to renew their license, but they are still operating. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, we just taking our time to ensure that we don't use the carrot for now because we know the constraints. You talked about advertising. It is advertising. I also mentioned it in my statement that is the lifeblood for us here. That is the lifeblood for the media. We don't have any other means than advertising. And the huge chunk of that comes from government, apart from Mercury and all Nigerian to say. And so it's happening always. Every government that comes, they have their own people. That's what they do. Support their own people. So it's not something new, but then we have challenged the government that you have to ensure that you spread it fairly so that even papers or media houses that are not supporting the cause, you have an obligation to support them so that they maintain their presence and operate. So those are issues we also talk about. Tax, I'm not sure we have done anything about taxes to the media, but this is something that we've engaged the NRA on. That is obligatory. That is obligatory. That is for the staff. That is for you, the workers. Yeah. It's for your own social security. So the media has to pay. If you want to change the conditions of service, then you have to pay. Because if they employ you, then you have to pay a contribution from the minimum they are paying you. That is for your own safety. I think you all, as workers of the media, should support that because it goes towards your welfare conditions, improving your welfare conditions. And so, for the times we're working with NRA to see how we can have a session with the media owners to ensure that they know, understand this electronic new electronic register that they are talking about, so that we understand how we're about to pay them. And part of the recommendations of the Business Investment Conference and the Media Viability and Investment Conference was to talk to government also to see how they can give tax incentives to media products that we import, the news planes, and the antennas and the sort of things that we import, that we use by the media, so that then they come in freely and the prices will be relatively low and the supply will be in abundance. So we're working on all of these things.
Thank you very much.
All that answers your questions.
What about analog, sir?
Thank you.
Analog, there's also work. Yes, digital transformation. That is the responsibility of every media to take advantage of it. Yes, for the broadcaster, national broadcaster, that is part of their communication. That they wanted to go digital migration is a must. That one is a must. We have to pay. So as media owners, we have to take advantage of digital space, not just to be present there, but also to think about ways of making money in that space. That is the challenge we have. But definitely we'll get there.
Thank you very much, the President of SLAJ. I think you are so magnanimous to really elaborate all the points. But from the outcome of the investment conference, shortly you will get all this output that was given out there, and you will know shortly. So he has excessively explained it. I would have just summarized it. Government to continue providing the political will. The second was to review existing legal and regulatory framework of the media. The third is to re-engineer the media industry to enhance the sector's investment. And also we have alternative action by government to promote community media and the public service broadcaster, develop urban policies and other. Government to develop partners
to commit to National Fund for Public Media, which has already been advertised now from the outcome of the ministers' meeting in Iraq quite recently. So you can go on the website and access for public media. If your media is doing public media, there is funding there now. Develop gender policy for the media. This is all part of the holistic plan. I think thank you very much, Prezo. I hope you will follow up. On this note, I want to thank you very much for coming and for further clarifications on press freedom, you can clarify with the police independently. But from the IMC perspective, being a commissioner myself, I think there is no muzzling there. And that is why we've taken the decision now. Every decision taken against newspaper or media institutions should be made public, and we don't keep it now. So we make sure we do it transparently and very much conveniently for you to hear those decisions. We thank you very much for coming and see you for the work